Time for the French newspapers now. Elena's with us here on set. She's talking about Greece, aren't you?
Well, about Alexis Tsipras, who has, of course, become the poster boy of the anti-austerity moment all over Europe. He's on a bit of a European tour. As you mentioned in the bulletin, he goes to Berlin today, Tuesday, and yesterday he was here in Paris. He was invited to the Assemblée Nationale by, if you like, France's Tsipras, the rather, yes, young, good-looking and glamorous, but still extremely left-wing and anti-austerity Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who, of course, ran for the presidency here in France and scored 11%. There they are in the Assemblée Nationale together. Tsipras called on François Hollande to attack global finance more thoroughly, quoting him, of course, when he gave that famous speech at Le Bourget in January, when he officially launched his election campaign. Hollande, Tsipras said yesterday, "Our adversary has no name and no party, but it's ruling the world." Of course, Hollande said in that speech that his adversary was the world of high finance. So he's under pressure there from the left all around Europe to show more solidarity with the Greeks that don't want to repay these tough, harsh austerity measures. That's not actually what Libération has chosen to put on its front page, though. They've opted for the silence of the law on sexual harassment. France's law on sexual harassment was thrown out just before the presidential election on the grounds that it was too vaguely drafted and it wasn't getting enough prosecutions because it was so badly written. So the editorial there today calls on the new Justice Minister to work as quickly as possible to try and draft a better and more coherent sexual harassment law to try and increase the number of prosecutions in France.
Not the only paper, though, calling on the new Justice Minister today, aren't they?
No, indeed. Christine Taubira, new Justice Minister, is on front pages on all sides this morning. Here she is on the front page of Le Figaro. Now, that's, of course, a rather right-wing paper, and they're furious with her already, just a few days into office, because she wants to scrap a key Sarkozy measure on the justice system. She wants to scrap her courts specifically for reoffending 17 and 18-year-olds, saying that instead they should be tried as children if they're under 18. Of course, for the right-wing paper, that's too much concern for their human rights and not enough for how they should be punished.
Now, another challenge for the new government. This is on Le Parisien's front page.
Yes, this is redundancy plans. Can the government do anything about them? Now, these are back on front pages now after Air France announced yesterday it's going to let 5,000 people go over the course of the summer. Now, the Hollande government has promised to do something about widespread layoffs. They've got, of course, Arnaud Montebourg, Socialist Party's famous lefty, in a new ministry called Productive Redressment, which kind of means he's going to be dealing with globalisation and industry and trying to bring jobs back to France. But is there anything he can actually do? Well, the paper there says there's a couple of options on the table, including forcing companies to sell factories to another firm instead of closing them, so turning over the workforce to different industries, or indeed in companies like Air France, where the state owns some of the shares, putting pressures on board meetings and shareholder meetings to stop them from laying people off. But in a firm like Air France, where the state only owns 15% of shares, there's a limit as to how much they can do. And
finally, you've got something happy, something celebratory in the French newspaper review. It does make a little bit of a change, I have to say, Elena, but you've picked out the weekend's football triumph for Montpellier.
We've had lots of joyous things in the French press reviews.
Sometimes, yeah.
But look at these photos in Le Parisien celebrating people in Montpellier, which of course topped the French league for the first time in its history yesterday. If you can see the manager down there on the left of that page, he shaved his hair into a Mohican as a result of a drunken bet that he said he would do if they won the league. So he had to get that Mohican yesterday. Can they actually stay on top of the league, the paper is asking? Well, it's a tricky one, because they are a small club, something perhaps, according to the paper, much harder to do in England or Spain. You couldn't get such a small club to rise straight to the top of the league. They've still only got a €60 million budget for next season, which in European football is peanuts. If they're going to take that to the Champions League, they're going to be quite straitened on such a small budget. So their worry now, having come top of the league, is that all their good players will disappear to England or Spain or a better financed club.
We'll have to get you in a Mohican one day, Elena. You never know, it could happen. Elena Casas on set with the French newspapers, sans Mohican, as they probably say in France.
I don't think it would suit me.
Perhaps not. Maybe one day, you never know.